So, there's a lot of ways to run a Bible study. Here's another one. This approach, not yet named, is an honest attempt to help people understand Scripture, using direct Bible reading, doctrine, questions, discussion, and the like. It borrows heavily from the understanding by design model and incorporates some interpretation theory, church doctrine, and self-evaluation. In other words, if it doesn't work, I can officially pass the buck. It starts with examining a book of the Bible, using Lutheran scholarship as a guide, for the big themes of the book that relate to the big questions of the faith. These themes all must run throughout the book and have necessary answers, but never sufficient ones to have absolute understanding of them. The big themes are converted to question form and will be the guides for understanding the book as we go. The participants' job is to keep a portfolio of the expanding answers as they build their understanding while going through the text. So how do you go through the text? Participants will approach their questions from a few angles. First is the content. The heart of the Bible study is, well, the words of the Bible and what they say. There are different ways to do this, but for the most part it involves a somewhat careful reading of the words on the page. But you also need context, that is, knowing what the words mean. How does the actual text work together to present meaning? In isolated events, groupings of Bible books, or the big ideas of the faith? These two components are at the heart of the big word hermeneutics, which is essentially the art of interpretation. The third important angle is the confession of faith of those who have gone on before. In other words, if you think you've got a new and novel insight into your scriptural interpretation, well, you don't. There's nothing new under the sun when it comes to looking at the Bible, and most issues in the history of the church have happened when people assume they're stumbling on something new. Fortunately, there's a lot of doctrine out there already that we can examine to see how others have viewed the answers to those big questions and what we can learn from that. The fourth angle is conversation, where content, context, and confession are all about how the text builds understanding to the big questions. Conversation is where participants process the big questions together. Conversation is the laboratory where people come together to apply their understandings, empathize with each other's understandings, and learn about the holes and limits in their own understandings. So that's great. But how do we evaluate whether or not we are actually understanding the answers to the big questions? We want to navigate through the twin terrors of simple coverage and pure sharing, and we want to actually learn something, right? A solution includes assigning skills to the different angles of investigation. Then we can actually measure beyond just the surface answer. To the matter of content, we have explaining what the text says, context is interpreting what the text means, confession is perceiving the theological issues from a variety of viewpoints, and conversation has to do with application, empathy, and self-examination. Add a rubric to flesh out the understandings, and that's it. This model is untested and developing, but it's a start. And what the hey? If it doesn't work, there's always just lecturing in videos, which I would never do. Ever.